What's happening, everybody? Welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune and frequent score contributor. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Dan and I are once again out at Halas Hall broadcasting the podcast on site here as we just got to meet more Chicago Bears. The other day, we got to meet Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, and Grady Jarrett. Today, we are bringing you the defensive end, Dayo Odeyingbo, who got 3 years and $48 million from the Bears to be a defensive end. Drew Dalman is here too. Hopefully the Bears center now and in the next 5-6 years. It is a 3-year, $42 million deal for him. Everybody seemed happy again. Another festive day in which Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson spoke as well today. But Dan, what stood out to you today about the festivities today?
Well, I'm going to start with the news of the day, and I know you were going to try to bury this lead, but I'm going to come out and get it right out at the start of the show, and it's that you did not stand immediately behind Drew Dalman or Dayo Odeyingbo at the side stage when they did their side session of interviews here today. That had become a little bit of an offseason trend here recently. You've made quite a bit of waves in Indianapolis when you were standing behind Ryan Poles at his backdrop at the Combine. And then yesterday, I posted to social media an instantly iconic picture of you behind Grady Jarrett, both of you giving the side eye to somebody that was asking a question off to the left. Find that photo. I bring this up because one of our loyal followers, Uncle Urso, on social media said, "I refuse to believe that Grote accidentally keeps ending up in every shot. He's in the background of my kids' class picture. This is getting out of hand."
And I should give a little texture here too, because it just happened a short while ago as we were gathering around Odeyingbo and Dalman for their side sessions, as we call them, after they stepped off the podium. Wiederer is like, "Grote, come on, get up there, commit to the bit, man." Because I was a little shy today. I'm going to admit I'm a little tired of seeing myself too much me. So I took it off today. I think Larry Mayer pushed his way up to the sweet spot. I saw Adam John. So everybody wants that spot now that has given me so much love and attention and being in the background of kids' pictures.
Well, listen, there was a playbook when Take the North started, and the playbook is commit to the bit. And when the bit starts to get a little bit not funny, you overcommit to the bit and you keep committing to it until it becomes funny again. So listen, we've got a long off season ahead of us. We've got an exciting regular season ahead of us. I need this to be part of the 2025 staple. It's going to be our bread and butter as we work forward on Take the North.
I will recommit. I am sorry that I let you down in that moment, Dan. And I feel like honestly I let a lot of the media members down as well, because I think that they're kind of, except for our really good friend Caitlin Sharkey. Although I think she is starting to get comfortable with it as well. She said that I should be wearing my spectacles, as she called them, my glasses in that shot. And then that's the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it today.
No, so we'll meet on that, just like Ryan and Ben are meeting here at Halas Hall. We'll meet on that, you and I will, and we'll get together on a plan that makes sense and unify a vision, and we'll just play to our strengths.
That sounds like a plan, my man. Let's start with Dayo Odeyingbo, and these are equally important players on the offense and defense for the Bears. But what did you think about his presence? I mean, this is a big, strong guy. You get it when you see him in person in terms of what they're doing. But as we've been talking about, Dan, this is a guy who they are projecting to do bigger, better things, as in getting to the quarterback more often. He touched on that a little bit today, but it's going to be a big job for Odeyingbo off the bat.
You know what I thought? I thought this is free agency, and we've been down this road a number of times before, and we have no idea how this is going to turn out. You talk to people in Indianapolis, and they say the reason that Dayo Odeyingbo was available is because the Colts were committing to solidifying the back end of their defense, and they had to make some decisions. And one of those decisions was to let a young player with some upside get out of the doors. We have no idea if he's going to become the player that the Bears think he's going to become, but they're obviously rolling those dice on the upside, on the traits, on the ability of a guy with this type of size and length to be able to help them inside, to be able to help them outside, to be able to play opposite of Montez Sweat, potentially next to Grady Jarrett, and do some things that can help your pass rush have some teeth. Now, I think one of the things you heard from Ryan Poles today is that so much of this becomes acquire and then develop. And so I think the next stage of this is getting Odeyingbo unified with Dennis Allen, getting him back together with Jeremy Garrett, who we learned today, I think many of us did, that Jeremy Garrett, the Bears' new defensive line coach, spent at least 1 year at Vanderbilt with Odeyingbo when he was finishing up his college career. So that's the next step in this is having a developmental plan and getting him ready for launch here in this Bears defense.
Yeah, no, Odeyingbo talked about how he's comfortable playing any position along the defensive line, which is heartening. It'll be interesting, again, like you said, Dan, to see how Dennis Allen, the new defensive coordinator, uses him. But let's listen to a little bit of Odeyingbo. Fresh tape from here at Halas Hall, where Dan and I just got done talking to Dayo with some of our other reporter brethren. And one of the things that I'm interested in is the sack totals and the fact that he had his high mark in 4 years in Indy was 8. So those were some of the questions that I was kind of fishing around for. But here is Odeyingbo from the very beginning, just about a minute's worth of what we got from him today.
Yeah, I FaceTimed with him today, actually.
Talking about Montez Sweat here.
He was training with one of my teammates out in from Indy, out in Pensacola. So, yeah, they called me today, got on the phone a little bit, texted a little bit.
Which guy?
Grover Stewart. Yeah.
In terms of your game, and I was asking about the sack numbers to Ryan Poles, and he said, put on the tape, he does so much more. But how do you respond to that? Is that part of your game that you want to see, obviously, more of the sack numbers?
I mean, everybody wants more sacks. That's the one number how they value D linemen. So, but I think anyone who's around football knows that a D lineman's job is a lot bigger than just the sack number, and you can affect the quarterback in more ways. Sure, Coach Johnson would prefer a forced interception over a sack, but that doesn't show up in your sack, category. So those are the type of things that help the team win that don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet in that sense. So, that's a big part of my game. But, yeah, I definitely want to see my sack numbers increase, and, that just comes with, growth and, just sticking to the plan.
How would you describe your game and your personality when you take the field?
I would say relentless. That would be my biggest thing. I don't want to ever stop chasing after the ball, chasing after the quarterback, making plays for the team, full effort, bringing energy to the team on the sideline and on the field. So I would definitely describe my game as relentless.
Dan, what do you think about that? Because I look at it and say, yeah, I agree with all that. Ryan Poles is right. Like, he does look great in his highlights and the quarterback hits. But we all know, like, we live in a world where you're getting to the quarterback. So what did you make of what Odeyingbo said? And do you think that there will be more pressure to get more sacks or just do the stuff that he's been doing that Poles fell in love with him over?
Yeah, look, like when you sign these types of contracts, production is required. And part of that production at that position is putting the quarterback on the ground and getting those sack totals up. I do agree with him that disruption is something that you can feel on an every week basis if it's there. The Bears are going to want to see that, certainly. And I did find it notable that he referenced Cam Jordan later in that session and talking about a guy that he's watched, coming up through the ranks and understanding now that Cam Jordan was incredibly effective in the system that Dennis Allen played in New Orleans. And so, maybe there is a little bit there to borrow from. But I think to your original question, 100% there is going to be heightened expectation to have that sack total go up. 3 sacks, not enough. You're going to have to be approaching 8, 9, 10 and showing that you can be an every game difference maker for this team. And that's the next challenge for Odeyingbo.
Yep, no doubt about it. And like with so much of this in terms of the free agents, even going back to Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson and Grady Jarrett, we just got to see it. We got to see what it looks like. We got to see how comfortable Drew Dalman is with Caleb Williams. How is Dayo Odeyingbo in terms of working with the rest of that defensive line and where exactly he's going to fit and what mismatches Dennis Allen may create for him. I thought Drew Dalman was really interesting today too, Dan, because he understands that he's coming into a situation where, I don't know, proving himself. I mean, he's obviously a proven center in this league, but the humility that he was offering in terms of, somebody asked him about, are you a leader? And he said, look, I got to prove myself first, man. I got to get into this locker room. I got to get the respect of my teammates. I got to show them what I have shown, in the past. And I just thought that was a good way to start it. He had a lot of different quarterbacks who he took the ball from while he was in Atlanta, young, older, Matt Ryan. So, I mean, I think that it portends well for the Bears that he has worked with just about every type of quarterback in his time in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's Mariota, it's Desmond Ridder, it's Kirk Cousins, it's Penix, it's Matt Ryan. You go through the long list. Obviously he's got that in his background now in case Bears need to change quarterbacks 6 or 7 times during his time here. Seen that before. That's obviously not the plan.
Don't say that, man.
No, I will not say that. That's my body almost convulsed as I said that, thinking about doing that again. But one of the things that I thought was notable listening to Drew Dalman is the eagerness that he has to join forces with Ben Johnson and the eagerness that Ben Johnson has to bring him in to part of his offensive line, right? Like, I think you heard the head coach describe his starting center as a really smart guy who's an eager learner and who hasn't wasted any time soliciting input on what can I do better? How can I get myself in a position to be a real difference maker for this offense? You sandwich in between, obviously, Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney, who we talked about in the last episode, and you've got the makings of something good up there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but probably the most notable part of the Drew Dalman exchange when we were talking to Ben Johnson was when Ben was asked, what can the coaches do to make it easier on this offensive line and getting their feet on the ground? He said, it's not supposed to be easy. This is going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort, and it is going to be really difficult. And so let's just call it what it is. We have 3 talented players that have come in this building here in the last 48 hours, and now they have to do all the hard work of creating that cohesion that, as you and I know, is so necessary to even get started having a really good offense for your football team.
That said, let's listen to about a minute and a half of what the Bears' new center, Drew Dalman, had to say.
Yeah, I feel like it really emphasizes there's a ton of importance placed on quarterback. That's not surprising, but there's 10 other guys out there that can help and make things easier. And so I think when you go through those changes, it really emphasizes, all right, what can each individual do to help with the whole unit and help the whole thing run smoothly. So I feel like that kind of process of self-evaluation, what can I do to help? What can I do to help the team, the unit, individual players, that kind of thing, is definitely top of mind. So I think that'll be something that we'll all work on, and it's kind of business as usual as for any offense is learning, like how can they optimize and be better.
Do you anticipate being a vocal leader in the room?
I feel like my style is often I feel like I have to prove myself and prove that my process works and that I'm a good teammate and a good person and all those things before that even begins to enter my mind. And then you also just the dynamics of the room. Like I'm entering a room as a stranger, and so I got to forge all those relationships and things like that. So I think it'll play out how it plays out, but I'll just focus on the things that approaching the game in a way that I know is respectable and effective and good and will help me kind of ingratiate myself with those guys.
Drew, obviously it's new to you because you're new to the Bears, but it's also phase 1 of Ben Johnson, and it's a lot of new offensive linemen coming in too.
Yeah. I guess, it's helpful that everybody's in the same boat, at least from my perspective. If you're joining something established, there's probably a sense of trying to get to speed, and I definitely felt that when I was joining with the Falcons and everything. And so I think it's fun that we're all in the same boat, we're all learning together, we're all growing together, and we're all trying to figure out what it looks like for us,
I do like that part, and that they're veterans. There's not rookies, the 3 rookies coming in together. I like that it's 3 in terms of the offensive line, Dalman, Jackson, Thuney, 3 guys that are going to have to figure it out. But somehow, Dan, I trust that these guys are going to figure it out. And again, we've gone through the issues at center for the Bears through the year. So again, seeing that man in this building today, it is a relief to see that there is a competent center for the Chicago Bears for the first time in a little while.
Yeah, competence is a box you want to check, right, for your offense.
But I mean, Coleman Shelton, I shouldn't dog Coleman Shelton. Like, he was fine, but you know what I mean. This is legitimacy.
And look, like, I think you have an offensive line now that is full of experienced, proven veterans, guys who have played a lot of football in this league and are going to understand what this league is about on a week-to-week basis. I think Drew Dalman certainly adds that to the mix. I think you can feel his cerebral approach to the game when you talk to him, even in these sessions here, like, like that's going to be something that they can lean into. Ben Johnson said, look, like we're going to give him a lot of responsibilities in helping to set up our run game. And then when the plays are run, he's got the athleticism to go out in those outside zones and be a difference maker. And so you're right. The interior of that line feels really good right now. And you feel like you've got some confidence that you can build with that group. And now it's just a long process to get from here to when they have to actually play meaningful football in 6 months. And I think everybody is willing to lean into that process.
Yep. It's still March right now, but things are happening quickly. The Bears have done, they have struck here in free agency. The draft is coming up next in April. And, we've talked about that a ton and we'll continue to talk about it more. Dan, did Ryan Poles, I know you mentioned a few things that both of them have said here today, and I've referenced a couple times too. Anything else it's been a very interesting circumstance out here at Halas Hall. I don't know or remember, except for draft time, Dan, where back-to-back days you have GM and head coach taking a few questions to start and then introducing the players. So it's been a very unique situation where we get a chance to hit these guys up with a few questions. Did Poles or Ben Johnson say anything beyond what we've talked about that piqued your interest?
It's not what they said. It's the kind of the way they're carrying themselves right now. And I think there is a level of satisfaction in what they've gotten done here in the month of March. Look, like I asked Ben Johnson a question about the 7 weeks of process that have gone on since he was introduced in this room that I'm sitting in right now. And, he had to come in with a vision. He had to share that with Ryan Poles. They had to unify on it. They had to get their staffs together. They had to make sure that they were ready to act when it came time to acquire players. And they've done so in a way that has solidified the offensive line and now obviously added some teeth to the defensive front. And I think they feel a sense of accomplishment here. And I think you could kind of feel that today, that there was almost an unspoken exhale on, okay, that part of the process has been handled. We've got a lot more to do. And I think you'd agree that, like, when you look at the roster and you say, look, like there's absolutely no depth at receiver right now. The second and third waves of free agency have to bring at the minimum bodies into that room. And then you can supplement in the draft. Safety is a position that we've talked about for a while as needing some reinforcement behind the top line starters. There's more work to be done here. And I think the second and third wave of free agency will get the Bears started down that path. But did you feel similarly that you just sense that they feel a little bit more at ease than they did maybe even 2-3 weeks ago?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's very interesting to watch Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. I should point out Kevin Warren has been front row or maybe a little off to the side in all of these as well. And they kind of just, there is this, of course there should be this mutual admiration thing going, and the head tilted with the little smile from Ryan Poles as he watches these guys. And yeah, they are proud. There's no doubt about it. Ben Johnson continues to shine in terms of the answers that he gives. And you could even see Poles, like of course Poles supported the hell out of Matt Eberflus. I don't want to act like he didn't, because he did support Matt Eberflus until he couldn't anymore. But there is this look when Ben Johnson is talking, and you could see Ryan Poles nodding his head. Yes. So it really, to me, more than anything, it really looks like, and I know like we have surmised about, has Ryan Poles lost power and all of that kind of thing. And maybe he has to some degree, or maybe you could just put it as Ben Johnson will have the power of suggestion. But it does really look like he is comfortable with this head coach and may do wonders for Poles' career, for that matter, as well, if this does work out with Ben Johnson.
Yeah, and the draft, is what, 6 weeks from now, and that's going to be another critical stage. It's like every year you spend so much time talking about the top pick and the first round and what's available in the top 15, in this case the top 10 again, and you realize that they have 6 draft picks behind that. Ben Johnson's experience in Detroit of watching Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell align and unify and make picks that help the football team and not have these wild swings and misses that get you nothing. The Velus Jones, for example. There's several other examples on the ledger where you're like, man, you used a premium draft pick and got nothing out of that. That didn't happen in Detroit over the last 4 or 5 years. There were very rare instances where they completely missed. And so as we will get understandably infatuated with what they're going to do at number 10 over the next 6 or 7 weeks, remember that those other 3 picks in the top 75, those other 3 picks on day 3 are going to be days, are picks and selections that they need hit on. And so you can't shy away from all that needs to come ahead as they put together this roster.
Yep, couple of 2s. They got a 3, a 5, and 2 7s in that draft as of right now. Thinking about money that the Bears potentially might spend in the future. We talked about Kyler Gordon yesterday, Jaquan Brisker coming out of contract this year. I think it's TJ Edwards' final year of his 3-year deal. So their Billings is in the final year of his the short contract extension that the Bears gave him. So lots of things here on the horizon in terms of what the Bears are going to do.
Wide receiver 3, man. What are they going to do at wide receiver 3?
It's got to be a veteran, right? I mean, you have to bring in. I'm not saying like I was pro Keenan Allen, but that's not going to happen. But you could tell by how much Caleb Williams liked. Like he said that Keenan Allen is the best receiver he's ever worked with, and I get it. That's 1 year in the NFL, but that says something in terms of wanting the comfort of a guy who knows exactly what he is doing on the football field, beyond DJ Moore, who knows exactly what he's doing on a football field.
2 of the questions I had coming into the week that we haven't had time to get answered because of the format and the structure here is, what are they going to do with the wide receiver 3 position as well as Keenan Allen? Is that door completely closed? I don't know that as we sit here today. I think it probably is, but
feels closed.
If the market comes to them and you say, oh my God, like he doesn't have anything else sitting out there for him, we can have him at a deep discount. Do you revisit that discussion? And then I'm also very curious what they're going to do, and I've expressed this in a couple different forms, that in the quarterback's room, do they want a veteran to either be QB3, competition as QB2, or just a practice squad guy that can be a compass for Caleb Williams? Don't know yet what direction they're going to lean on those, but these are some of the things that as we check off the big boxes, you realize that checklist is like a Santa scroll of things that they got to get done between now and the start of OTAs, which is just about 6, 7, 8 weeks from now.
Yep. After the draft. So it's going to be good. So much to come here, as much as we've already given you here throughout the week. So stay tuned to the Take the North podcast. We appreciate everybody listening and watching and giving the feedback that you have given us. We thank Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. Thank you to Adam Studzinski back at our downtown Chicago studios producing this here fine podcast. I am Mark Grote. Dan and I are broadcasting from Halas Hall today. Again, thank you for being part of the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.